Okay, I've unmuted you now, so shit. Then I both mics. Well, it's in a new position. All right, so as we know, it was here, right? And it was just underneath me. So every time I exhaled out of my nose, the air would go right into the fucking microphone. And it's hard as hell to fucking edit out of a video. So I moved it over here. And now every time I flap around with my fucking wing bags, I hit the damn thing. And then, see, I told you, it'll take me some getting used to it. It's only been a day.
The best part about it is, like, I used to do that all the time, and it's great to be able to see someone else do it. I'm like, yes, not the only one.
Another thing is I have my light, so I moved the light from the stand that it's always been on so that I can play around with a different camera. And I put it on double-sided tape up against the mount for the mic. And it looks now that it's falling off. So if it gets dark in here, you'll know that it fell.
Well, the lighting does look good.
Well, it's better now because when the mic was here in front of me, I had a shadow of a mic here. Look. All right. Okay, so we are live. We are. For you, Tyler, how are the audio levels? Because I've messed with my gain a little bit.
You sound fine on my end.
Good. And the levels, according to OBS, are a little lower than normal. But so if anybody's in the chat, you can let us know what you think of the audio levels, and we can add a little bit of gain. Jordan says audio is fine. Thank you for that. And we are...
Yeah. And just to answer Glowsek's message, what have I been doing today? Playing 0AD and sort of disrespecting Matt by forgetting that we had the podcast.
Yeah, he knows exactly. He knows exactly what you're doing because he was in your stream watching.
Yeah.
Everybody knows. Everybody knows what you're doing. It's okay.
I'm sorry.
Tyler's voice is louder than Matt's, not equal. So I'm going to add a little bit of gain to mine. Let's see here. Gain, I'm going to go up to... Okay, so how about now? Is it a little bit better now? Tyler, say something so we can see if you're equal.
This is me talking, you know?
That was him talking. Is it a little bit better now? I added about 3 decibels of gain. If I have to, I'll get up and crank the knob. I really don't want to do that, though. I'd like to have a little bit to play with. This Heil won't take a cloud lifter, so Tyler is too loud. Okay.
Okay. Well, I'll just lower my voice. I'm sorry, guys.
I'll lower him just a bit.
I don't mean to be rude. I swear.
Still a little too low. Okay. Well, I will add some more gain. I have about as much gain here as OBS will actually allow you to add. So I'm literally almost maxed out.
Well, I think they don't want you to raise yours. I think they're talking about lowering mine. Like, mine's too loud.
See, yours hasn't changed, though, is the thing. Like, your volume level should be the same. Tyler's not just your voice, is the background noise.
Now they're saying it's good.
Okay. I've literally gone up to, because OBS will give you 30 decibels of gain to play with. I'm at like 29. So
holy crap.
You gotta remember, this microphone is very similar to the Shure SM7B in terms of like gain that you need to give it. Because it's like, I have it cranked almost to 100% on the audio interface. So, but I still have to go through and amplify and add gain post-processing, so.
I do have a question. Are you using a cheap DAC for that?
No, I'm using a Scarlett Focusrite Solo.
Okay.
So it's a good one.
Okay.
But this microphone just sucks. It's horrible. It can't make anybody sound good.
Well, I was going to say, because every time you talk, there's this, it's not like, it's a high-pitched sound, but it's not very loud. It's hard to describe.
I would guarantee that is the light that I have attached to the clamp for this. Because that thing has a really high-pitched, loud sound that you can't hear normally. But it travels all the way along this thing and is picked up by the mic. I need to move it, but it's just going to have to deal with it for today.
Gotcha.
Because I guess I'm going to have to, I don't know, put it on the wall or something. I don't know. It's going to be something weird. So.
Oh, hold on. If there's a whole bunch of white noise, it might just be... My overhead fan, it was on low, but it might be still making enough noise to pick up. Because Discord should be filtering out my fan noise.
I think I have... Oh, I don't have the... Hold on a second. I was going to say, I think I have the... Okay, so here we'll do this, and we'll add filters, and then noise suppression. Okay, and okay, close. All right, give me a talk there, Tyler.
All right, so this is me talking now. Hopefully there is no white noise behind this audio.
It's a little bit there every time you talk, but that's just the way the Blue Yeti works.
Better now. Awesome. Okay. Awesome.
Because that's what you're using is the Blue Yeti, right?
Yep.
When you have voice going through that, it picks up everything in the room. But when there's no voice, it actually just completely zeroes out in terms of decibels. So it always sounds like every time you talk through something, it sounds like you're in a crowd. But when you're silent, it's silent. It's weird. Unless we have that stupid thing where I hear me through your microphone, which happens sometimes.
Yeah, I don't know how that happens. Like, it's the weirdest thing.
Yeah, I don't know. It's dumb. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and get started here. You're ready to record?
Yes, I am.
Okay, I'm gonna hit record in Audacity. I'm gonna wait for it to go because there's stupid delay now. Okay, and I'm gonna hit record in OBS. And you can do the claps whenever you like. See if I can hit the mic when we do this.
3, 2, 1.
Good. All right. All right. So last week when I was going through and starting to edit the podcast, I came about this close to deleting the video again. I was like, yeah, because I had extra videos in my video folder. I didn't know what they were. So I was like, oh, I got to delete those. And I selected all of them instead of just the 2. It was very close. I've gotten into the habit over the last week now when that happens to send those to trash. That way, if I make a mistake, they're still there. Because so eventually I'm just going to delete something and then we'll be screwed.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. So let's see here. One last check of the scenes to make sure we're here. So we got Pod Browser. We have Qt Browser open. We have Matt Big, Tyler Big, main no camera, and split. We're good. All right, so I don't know whether or not we will take any questions and answers because we're running significantly behind.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have questions that you really want answers to, I guess just do an @ to one of us because I think we're both in the chat. And you can we'll try to answer if we have a chance. But anyways, we're gonna go ahead and get started. And I think we're ready to go. And slap my face, ready to get myself woke up. Tradition. Remember, we have our new way of starting the podcast this time. I'm gonna mention it that way we don't fuck it up for the 3rd week in a row.
Oh, I definitely will fuck it up.
Okay. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Linux Cast. I'm your host, Matt.
And I'm Tyler.
We did that right.
We did
it right. It's great. All right, cool. So this is the Linux Cast. We talk about Linuxy things most of the time. Other times we just bullshit for about an hour, and that's what we're planning on doing today. We have topics. We're going to go through them one by one as we, do. But I'm sure we will meander as we also do. So, Tyler, other than the normal things, what have you been doing this week? Do we need to have an intervention? Is what I'm hearing?
Yes. So my zero AD addiction has gotten to the point now where it is negatively impacting the rest of my life. I am forgetting about obligations that I have. It's taking up a massive chunk of my time. That being said, I absolutely love it and probably won't stop. Just need to learn how to, become a functional addict,
Like you just need to become an adult. It's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay. You just need to set an alarm or something. Dude, you have modern technology. You're not in the wagon yet, Tyler.
I know. Well, really, in all honesty, even though I knew it was Thursday, I really didn't think of it as Thursday. I was like, I got the day off. I can spend the whole day playing Zero AD. I even sent you a message like, hey man, you want to play Zero AD? It never once occurred to me like, hey man, you got the podcast. You sort of got to do that.
Yeah, I messaged you back saying, hey, I just got home. I need to get food before we do the pod. You never answered me back because you went and automatically and started messing around with your women. So that I probably better not say that. Okay, I'm gonna say it. So that's the only way you can mess around with women is in the video game. That's the reason why you're so obsessed with the game. All right, sorry, that was very mean. I'm still a little salty. I was stood up for like a half an hour. It's okay. All right. Yep. So you've been playing Zero AD. I played the tutorial of that, and it was fun, but overly complicated for me. But I think if I play it a little bit more, which I still haven't had a chance to do, by the way, this week has just been so fucking busy. We got a new dog, and that's been taking up a lot of time. Plus, work has just been crazy. So, yeah. So for me, I've been messing around with Emacs, and every time I show Emacs in a video, someone tells you you're doing it wrong. Last week I was talking about how I preferred to use Emacs in the terminal, and apparently that's the wrong way to use Emacs because you don't get all the features if you use it in the terminal. Which in my case, I'd then ask, why is there even a terminal version? If it's a stripped down, vanilla version of Emacs, why bother having it in the terminal? You're just giving me false hope at that point.
Exactly.
Right. So I've been messing around with it slowly, but every time it doesn't work the way I expect it to work, I just immediately go do the thing that I need to do in Vim because I know the key binding's there. So, like that ricing video I did yesterday, people see I started up in Emacs and started working on it, and it didn't paste the way I expected it to paste. Like the thing about the Doom Emacs is that the key bindings are similar to Vim, but they're not exactly the same as Vim. Because like when you're in Vim, to paste from a clipboard outside of Vim, you have to do Control-Shift-V like you do in a normal terminal, right? But in Emacs, Control-Shift-V does something completely different. It's just P. And I keep forgetting that. So I went through and kept trying to figure out why the colors weren't changing. And it just, it's because I wasn't pasting correctly. And I got pissed off and threw a fit and just went to Vim. And I did the rest of the video in Vim. So I got a couple messages and comments about that. Like, you were doing it wrong. Well, yeah, I know I was doing it wrong, but the way it was being done is stupid. I'm like, I understand technically P is a better way of pasting than Control-Shift-V, but I've been using Control-Shift-V to paste in a terminal for ever. Right? Yeah. I mean, that's just the way you do it. Yeah, I mean, so that has been an experience. I have not been able to get into org mode or org Roam yet. Those are the two things I'm going to check out before I stop this stupid experiment. Because I'm hoping that those two grab my attention and like, oh, these are really good. This is why you use Emacs. Because so far, I haven't found a good reason to use Emacs.
Yeah.
So
it's just Vim's better.
Yeah. So I've been scripting up a storm. I'm this close to being able to finish the rice changer script that I've been doing. Oh man. So I ran into a problem. I don't know if I talked about this last week or not, but what I wanted to do, and I had it working, was that I had an array that listed out all the choices for rices, and then it ran that through Rofi, and then it took the choice and then applied the changes. The problem is with DWM, you have to build it. So every time you make a change to one of the config files, you have to build it, and you can't do that from Rofi because you need sudo privileges. So I can't. If you could build DWM or ST or any of those things without using sudo privileges, that would be the way I'd be doing it, because it'd be really cool. Just hit a key binding, Rofi comes up or D menu comes up, select the rice you want, and it changes. That was my ideal, but it's just not going to work that way because of that stupid sudo privileges. Instead, what I'm going to do is it's going to be something you're going to have to run from a terminal with options. So you'd run the terminal name, and then you'd put the option of the rice that you want after it, and then it would then change.
Could you not do it? I mean, there should be a way of doing it from D menu and having it to where when you need the sudo privileges, it just loads up a policy kit. Like,
and see, I thought that I don't know anything about how to use a policy kit. Like, I don't know how to spawn that service. You know what I mean?
With you. Yeah.
Like, I have no clue how to do that, because that's what I thought too. Was like, it'd be really cool if it would just you select a rice and then policy the poll kit thing comes up and you type in your password. But I don't know how to do that. I mean, maybe I can do some research and figure out how to do that. It'd be really cool, because I have that script is written, like, it's done. It's just it won't work because you need the sudo privileges.
No.
So anyways, that's basically what I've been doing. I've also been slowly learning some more about Btrfs because I want to do a video on it, because I think it's really cool, and I'm going to argue that it should really be the default on Linux now, because it's so good. Like, every time, like, I haven't been forced to use it yet, but every little feature that I discover about it just makes me think, like, this is the way Linux should work. Like, ext4 has been good for many years, but it's time to move on to the next thing. Btrfs is the future, I think. And
snapshots are amazing.
Yeah, they're really good. And I don't know why Ubuntu has chosen ZFS as an alternative. It's like, why do you want to be different? Just choose Btrfs. It's better. All right. Anyway, so that is that section there. We can move on to the contact information. Let's see if I can do this without fucking it up. Unlikely. Anyways, if you want to follow us on Twitter, you can do so at the LinuxCast. You can subscribe to all of our feeds and stuff like that, thelinuxcast.org. There you'll find links to all the places where you can subscribe to the audio version, as well as a link to the YouTube page. If you want to get in contact with us via email at thelinuxcast.org is where you can do that. I do actually get those emails. Whether or not I respond will mostly depend on what your email is actually about. If you're emailing me about, I don't know, some stupid thing about how you're going to make my YouTube channel the next PewDiePie, I'm not going to respond to you, because we all know that's we already know that my channel is better than PewDiePie. I mean, it's true.
Finally, someone just came out and said it.
Also, that light is so gonna fall. Like, now it's hanging by a fucking thread. Yeah, that's great. That's great news. Anyways, you can also subscribe to Tyler's channel on YouTube and Odyssey. Those links will be in the video description and in the show notes. If you haven't already, seriously, he's like 50 away from 1,000. Like, 50 away from 1,000, and we're gonna get him there. Like, by the end of the year, Tyler's gonna be at 1,000, or we're gonna die trying. Go subscribe to Tyler's channel. He's zany. He's zany online, and you can subscribe to our channel on the YouTube by going to youtube.com/linuxcast. That wasn't bad. Also, I'm just looking at that light like it's definitely gonna fall. All right. Anyways,
just waiting for the crash.
like it's gonna happen. It's like it's literally dangling. So I bought this double-sided tape. I don't know if you can see this or not, and it is sticky. Like it will stick to your fingers from the side, but apparently it's not sticky enough to hold that up. So that was a waste of like $8. All right. Anyway, so whatever. It's okay. Every week, Tyler and I find news or news-like things in the case of sometimes, and we talk about those things. Usually, this is the part of the show where we diverge from what we should be talking about into other things. So, Tyler, what is your news link of the week?
Mine is it's sort of a tutorial guide, but it's about the how to essentially get a new Linux kernel installed on your Ubuntu system, which I've found out that new guides and stuff like this that come out are apparently very popular and like extremely helpful inside of the like Ubuntu community. I did not know how many. It surprises me. I've recently found out that a lot of people who use Ubuntu update the kernel. Like, just either they do it themselves, like TFL does that, he updates the kernel himself. A few other people, like, they all manually update the kernel themselves, or, you know, follow a guide like this. So, you know, if you are an Ubuntu user, apparently it's very popular to run Ubuntu with a more up-to-date kernel, which obviously makes sense. You're going to get much better stuff, like, you know, better driver support, hardware support, all of that. But I don't know. Again, you do say this is where we go off on tangents. My question to you would be, if you're going to install Ubuntu, would you actually update the kernel?
I never have. But you remember, I think the longest I've ever run Ubuntu is probably for like 2 weeks. So I don't think I've ever stuck around on an Ubuntu install long enough to have to actually, update the kernel. Now I have to do it on Arch, but that's just, that's normal. I mean, you get 3 updates a week.
Yeah.
For Arch. So, would I if I were on Ubuntu? Probably not, because the way I look at Ubuntu is that you use that because it doesn't get kernel updates. Like, if that's the way I look at it. It's like, you want that thing to be as stable as possible, and using the newest kernel is just going to cause you problems, or you would think.
Yeah, like, right? Yeah, I mean, where it's at least less stable than running an older one that just works, like, yeah, you don't get as many features, but that's sort of the whole idea, is that it's rock solid stable. Like, it's very weird to me, but yes, apparently this is very popular. Right. So look,
I don't think we can take Terminal for Life as an example of how that would work for other people, because
no. But I have talked to a lot of others, and apparently there's quite a few graphical user or GUIs for updating your kernel in Ubuntu. It does not make any sense to me, but
well, I mean, apparently that's something people want to do. But like I said, then I would question why you want to use Ubuntu in the first place.
Exactly.
Because, like I said, the reason why you use Ubuntu is because it's stable. It's not going to get. I mean, I don't know. It's just really weird. But then again, maybe you prefer apt. I mean, maybe that's the reason why you prefer apt as the package manager, or maybe you really, really like snaps and you like first-party support for snaps. I mean, all right. There goes the light.
I was about to say, did the light cut off?
Oh. I don't know what I'm going to do with it. Fuck off. Awesome. So
well, you knew it was going to happen eventually.
There it goes. Anyways, I don't remember what I was saying, so I'm surprised I didn't, in my haste to get to the light, unplug the fucking microphone. That would have just been gravy on top of everything else the way it has. So yeah, so I don't
talking about snaps.
Yeah, so that's what I wanted. If there's somebody out there who really, really likes snaps, I want to meet you and interview you because I want to know why.
Talk to Dylan.
Oh, we can't talk to Dylan. That man uses Nano. Okay,
as a snap. That's all I'm saying.
We can't. He and I would not get along for very long.
Well, if you're asking for somebody who loves snaps, he loves snaps enough to run Nano, Vim. He was trying to convince me that having a init system as a snap would be a great thing.
I don't think that it's even possible.
Well, it's stupid. Why would you try to sandbox your init system? It needs to start services. What?
How would that even work? Because it
couldn't.
Like by definition, your init system has to breach that container wall like all the time. So
exactly.
How would it? I'm not the most technical person in the world, but I don't think that would be possible. At least not. Okay. He also uses GNOME, so I mean, enough said. All right. Anyways, so my news link of the week. Well, I mean, anyways, is that Brave has switched from Google to its default search engine by default, and I was listening to a couple other Linux podcasts, and people are like, "This is shocking news." Like, how is this shocking news? Of course they were going to switch. That's the reason why they did Brave browser in the first place, or Brave search in the first place. I mean, so that they could use it and get away from Google. I mean, that's of course they were gonna do this. I mean, how stupid can you get? Of course they were. So
I'm surprised it wasn't default out of the gate.
Well, I mean, I think they wanted to get it out of beta first, but it just doesn't surprise me at all. And the thing is, do you still use Brave Search as your default? I know you did for a while.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I did for a bit while I was still using your Qt browser config because I was just too lazy to change it. But then eventually I just went back to Google because that's the reason why I keep going from DuckDuckGo. Like every once in a while, I'll feel guilty about not using an open source, search engine or a privacy respecting search engine at least. So I'll go switch to DuckDuckGo, and I'll get pissed off at it after like a couple weeks because it keeps forcing me to use the Bang system to get to Google anyway. So I just like, fuck this, I'm just gonna use Google. So, yeah, Google's too good. You know what I mean? It's just, it really is. It's just too good at search engine. Like other things I can understand, that you don't want to use it. But for me, the search engine, their results are always good. Hardly ever do you go to Google, search for something, and then not find what you need. And you can't say that about DuckDuckGo or Brave. Although I don't think I gave Brave enough credit because they pull a lot of stuff from Google as well. So maybe they'd be pretty good.
Brave is far, far better than DuckDuckGo. But I will say here on Firefox, I'm using DuckDuckGo. Just in Qt browser, Brave is my default.
Yeah, DuckDuckGo does use Bing, which explains a lot. Because Microsoft can't make anything good. I mean,
no, they can't. Well, I take that back. They can make things good, but when they're only using the work of others, like they can make a good browser when they just put a skin over Chromium. Yeah. That's it.
Or I mean, GitHub is still good, but they're working on it, making it worse.
I mean, they just bought it. That's it.
Yeah. All right. Anyway, so that was my news link of the week. So moving on to the main topic. At 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm like, looking at the time, like, man, why are we running so late? That's because somebody had to play Euro AD. Actually, on the 0 AD, man. What I was going to do is pop into your because you had your chat, you were in a VC there. I was going to pop in and say, hey, yoy, Tyler, podcast.
You should have.
Why would I want to be rude?
I was the one being rude.
That's okay.
I was bailing on you.
And next time I'll do that, I was like, hey, asshole.
Well, there won't be a next time, but it's a whole other topic.
And tell that the next time you're playing with your women. Anyways, moving on to the...
No, go ahead.
I was just going to move on to the main topic before we just keep doing this for the next half an hour. So, Tyler, most underrated Linux distribution. Which one do you think doesn't get enough love?
Now, this is just completely because I'm using it. This is definitely biased and impartial or non-impartial. KDE Neon. I've neglected it for a long time. Not really checked it out or anything. Haven't really thought much of it because, I mean, when you look into it, it's not something that sounds super appealing. It doesn't sound very special. It's just KDE. It's the latest from KDE on top of a stable Ubuntu base. That's it. However, with that being said, it is the best experience. It has made me love KDE more than I've ever liked it before. And also it is a smooth experience, man. I have it on my desktop and my laptop, and if anyone's kept up with like my channel for quite a while, like it's a Dell G5 laptop. It's an all AMD laptop. It has a Ryzen APU in it and a dedicated like RX graphics card. And Linux typically does not play nice on it. Over here, this is the only stable distribution where everything works with the card. It just everything works. I don't even have any pulse audio issues here. Like, it doesn't do any weird mic switching. I don't have to like replug in my microphone or ensure that I don't boot up without my microphone plugged in. None of that weirdness. Everything just works. It's beautiful and snappy, which is great. So KDE Neon, check it out. It's pretty great.
All right, so for those of you who are patrons, you'll know that this topic has been done before, but by me solo, because I deleted that video. But the audio was fine, so that's been up for patrons for a couple weeks. But I wanted to talk about this with Tyler, because I thought we'd have an interesting discussion. So, for me, I have a couple answers to this question. And they're kind of surprising answers, because you'd think that I'd say Arco or Garuda or something like that, but I don't think that that's true, because I think a lot of people like Arco and Garuda. Those are fairly popular Arch spin-offs. So I wasn't going to choose one of those, because I don't think that they're really underrated. I think that people who want to use Arco or Garuda use Arco or Garuda, or they use Manjaro or something like that, similar like that. So for me, my answer was Sparky Linux. And I really, really like Sparky. So if you don't know what Sparky is basically Debian. It's Debian stable. I think they have an unstable version as well, but the one I tried was the Debian stable version. And it's basically just Debian. It's like a minimal install of Debian, but with, they have 4 ISOs. They're all on the front page, so you don't have to worry about actually finding the ISO. And they use the Calamares installer. It's really easy to install, really stable, has access to all the Debian repositories out of the box, so you don't have to worry about enabling backports and stuff like that. It just works. It's really good. Sparky really impressed me when I tried it. Now, that was my answer when I did that solo podcast, and I still really like Sparky, but since that time, I've taken another look at MX Linux. Now, this is another Debian-based distro, and it's really, it really surprised me, because I looked at it before when I first started the channel, and I remember really liking it, but this time it just really kind of hit something for me, because they have a ton of tools. They have a MX tweak tool that has a ton of stuff in it, and they've gone through and just made a very neat, like beginner-friendly distribution that has a ton of tools that help. Like they have a GUI for changing your bash RC. Did you know that? Like they have a GUI. You can go through and you can change your prompt. You can go through and add aliases. You can go through and do pretty much anything you could do in a bash RC, but it's a GUI. Like it's the weirdest tool that has ever existed. And I would never use it because I would just, open up Vim and open up bash RC. But for those people who have never, they don't know what a bash RC is or how they go about
incredible.
Changing your prompt or whatever. Because I mean, if you have to change your prompt in bash, and normally you have to go through and you have to know the syntax of how to do it. And with this tool, you can go through and not only create a prompt, but you can save that prompt for ages for later. Like if you have multiple prompts you want to use, you can switch between them in a GUI way. It's just in a list. It's really cool. So I don't think that you could really I don't know if you can qualify MX as an underrated distro, because I mean a lot of people use it, but I really do think it's very good. And I think if you're looking for a Debian based distro, MX or Sparky are probably probably the two of the best. If you're going to use Debian, use one of those two. Now, if you're not, I'm going to have a third answer. Damn it! There's a third answer. Another one that really impressed me was Gecko Linux. Now, the thing about Gecko Linux is that it's OpenSUSE based, and you're like, wait a minute, there are OpenSUSE based distros. There are OpenSUSE based distros, and one of them is called Gecko Linux. Now it's really good. Now it has some of the same issues that OpenSUSE has, but it was actually very stable, and it fixed a few of the things that OpenSUSE had problems with. And it's called Gecko Linux, so it has a cool name. So I'm going to read your name, whether you like it or not. The Dyke who likes loves swords. Thanks for the super chat. Do you use NVim tree? Also love your videos. Well, thank you for liking the videos. NVim tree. Is that like the built-in file manager for Vim? I don't know. I use Nerd Tree for a file manager, but I'm not sure what NVim tree is.
I think NVim tree is like the file picker file browser for NeoVim. I think. Yeah. It might also just be a plugin for regular Vim.
I know that Vim has like a built-in file picker that's called Nerd Tree, Nutri or something. I don't know. It's called something really weird. But I never use it because I prefer Nerd Tree. So. Yeah.
Yeah, same. Nerd Tree is fantastic.
It's just good. I was like, yesterday I was going through and opening up files while I was scripting, and I was using :E to open. I was like, and then typing out the full path. I was like, wait a minute, why am I doing this? Like, I have a file manager inside Vim. It was dumb. Anyways, it just sometimes I forget it's there. Anyways, thanks for the super chat there. I do appreciate that. I don't get super chats very often, so I have literally no clue what to do with them half the time. Yeah, so I do appreciate that. Anyways, yeah. So those are my answers for the most underrated distro, but I think some of them are probably kind of cop outs, because like Sparky is like the only one there that's kind of like a really underrated distro, like that hardly anyone uses. So MX is really popular as far as I know, but I think that it could be even more popular. It's really good. Those tools, man. Yeah. Like, it's like I think somebody told me this, whether or not it's true. I think MX at least doesn't use systemd, but I don't know if that person was trolling me or not. So it's possible that could be wrong. Well, I didn't notice it because then who the hell interacts with their init system?
Exactly. It really doesn't matter.
Like I did that. So I did that poll last week, right? I said I was going to do a poll of who's interacted, how often do you interact with your internet system? And I had some interesting answers. So like a lot of people use systemd to do reboots and stuff like that on their system. So they interact with it every day. And I think that if you're running a systemd based distro, and you go into your terminal and hit shutdown now, what you're technically doing is interacting with systemd. I think that that's the case, because I think shutdown is just an alias to system service or something. Okay, so Milo says systemd does not use systemd. Okay. So that person did not troll me. That's good. But like I said, I didn't notice it because, I mean, I don't interact with, I didn't go through and start up services or something like that. That'd be the only time I'd interact with the init system. So I wouldn't even have noticed.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but the thing about it is, like, I messed around with Runit, OpenRC, and systemd, and like, first off, who cares? It doesn't matter. It's an init system. 2, they all work, so who cares? And the third one is, as soon as you've worked with them all, who cares? They all have the same sort of idea. They just go about starting a service a different way. Who cares? They all work.
Yeah,
I'm not going to pick a distro because it uses one particular init system.
I mean, you have to have a very specific gripe against systemd in order to hate it. Otherwise, I mean, there has to be something that, I mean, it has to have kidnapped your baby or burnt your house down or something for you to dislike it. Because otherwise, I could understand, like, if you're an IT administrator or you're a programmer of some kind and you're constantly interacting with it and maybe it has bugs or something you've noticed or it doesn't work in a way that you want it to work, I can understand not liking it. But for the vast majority of normies out there who, even if you use it to shut down your computer, you probably don't know you're using it to shut down your computer. So, I mean, chances are you don't care about systemd. So, and that's probably the way it should be. Now, the other side of the argument is that, well, it's kind of become a standard and every distribution uses it, and that's not great for Linux. Linux is the place where we should have 9 different ways of doing things, and that's just, I mean, my response to that is, well, we have 9 different ways of doing an init system. We have 12 different init systems, and those things exist. They're not popular for reasons because, like, the thing about OpenRC and running all those things, they don't do everything systemd does, not even close. Systemd is a suite of applications that does more than just being an init system. Like, it has an init system inside of it, but it has a ton of other things that it does. So when you go through and use something like Runit, which is just an init system, that's all Runit is, you have to have other things to do the stuff that systemd does, outside of that. If you want those things to work. So just because you're using a non-systemd distro doesn't mean that you can't. It doesn't mean that you get away with not doing those other things that systemd does. Also, here's the thing that bothers me, Tyler, is that the people who use non-systemd distros are so proud about the fact that they don't use systemd. Like,
no.
You're the Arch people all over again, but for an init system. Okay, like I use Runit, by the way. It's like, I don't care. Like, I don't care what an init system. Good for you, man. I'm so happy that you found an init system that you like. But for me, I interact with the init system so rarely that I couldn't care what init system I'm using, as long as it works. Like, literally, that's what I want to have happen. I want my computer to turn on in the morning, and I want to get to my websites and open up, OBS and do this stuff. I want it to work. If it works, I don't give a crap. Maybe I'm naive or something, thinking that things don't matter, but I don't think it matters.
No, I mean, a lot of those people treat systemd like it's a piece of malware or it's like somehow malicious. It's like, dude, it's just an init system. It's not dangerous. It's not scary. It doesn't matter. If you like something, like, I really like Runit, but I can't really use Runit for reasons, but I really like it. So I mean, if you prefer another init system, that's awesome. Just enjoy what you like. But I mean, I don't understand the hatred and the the pride that some people get for being like, I'm not a systemd user. Yeah,
and I mean, they look down on the systemd people, like, whatever. I mean, I can understand not liking it because it's controlled by a corporation. Like, it's developed by Red Hat, like GNOME and like Xorg and Wayland and Pipewire, like Red Hat, if they decided to take everything proprietary, Linux would be screwed. So, but we've known that forever, right? We've known that forever, and it's probably never going to happen. But even if it does, we could still fork the stuff if we had to. So I mean, I can understand that argument, but I don't think. If we're so anti-corporation backing open source software, Linux should be done for, because I hate to break it to these people, but we need those corporations to invest in open source software. Otherwise, Pipewire is never going to get fixed, or Wayland's never going to become mainstream, or snaps are never going to get better, and what will Dylan do then,
Yeah.
So,
it's weird. It's almost like for any industry to succeed, there needs to be money being put into it.
It's a weird thing, isn't it? Right?
Wow.
Because I hate to break it again to you, but Linux, the people who use Linux, most of them, cheap bastards. They don't want to spend any money. And it's just the way it is sometimes, and that's okay. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. I can't claim any moral high ground and say, well, I've put $20,000 in the last year into open source software, because that's not true. Like I support Bitwarden, I support Arca Linux. I've given them maybe $30 over the last year. So, I'm a cheapskate just along with everybody else, but you can't, if you want Linux to be as successful as it is now, not even talking about making it more successful, have to have some corporate, backing. I think that if we had to have corporate backing, Red Hat and Canonical are probably, the best evil that we could possibly have, because it could be worse. It could be Microsoft, it could be Google, being the biggest open source software, and we know that they don't actually care about open source. At least Canonical and Red Hat seem to do so.
Yeah. Well, but I mean, the scary part is well, I mean, it's not scary, but again, money's got to come from somewhere, and these are the people with the most money, but the evil corporations are the ones who fund the not so evil corporations. So we live in a very weird world. It's not black and white like people would like it to be.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's I don't know. It's just you get to a point where some of the Linux community just kind of doesn't. They want it to be an ideal place where everything's open and there's no corporate influence, and it's just. Would we like to live in that kind of world? Maybe. But Linux should be a lot smaller. It'd be a lot more broken than it is today. I guarantee it. Like, it just would. Like,
well, I mean, people talk. I mean, exactly what you're talking about. People don't want corporations involved. Look, if Valve never put any interest in Linux, I don't know that I would be using it. Because I wouldn't be able to play any games that I wanted to play on Linux. So I wouldn't have even started playing around with it, trying it out. It would just be that weird, obscure thing that like I offhand know about, but don't really play with.
And that's a really good point, because, and it's so true. I mean, like if Valve decided today that they didn't want to do Linux anymore, we'd be screwed, because the vast
a lot of people would leave.
Like, there'd be no Linux games other than Zero AD. Like, that'd be the only game. Like, Tyler would be like, I'll be fine. Like, I'm good now. That's the only game I need.
My addiction would be like, good. Yes.
Like, I chose a good one. But for everybody else who wants to play literally anything else, I mean, I don't want to besmirch the open source developers who do open source games on Linux, because there are a lot of good ones. Zero AD is out there. TuxKart's out there. I mean, there's several, Xenotic or whatever it is. Really good games that are open source and well developed and that stuff. But those are kind of it. I mean, if you want a AAA game, the only way you're playing that is thanks to a large corporation. It's just the sad fact of it. And even if, like, I'm sure that the developers and stuff like outside, because like Wine existed before, seems like Wine was here, but Wine wouldn't be where it is now without backing from Steam, because Steam does a lot of stuff that puts upstream into Wine. So I'm not saying all corporations are good. We know that that's not true, not even close to being true, but we can't be so, blind as to say, corporations shouldn't take part in open source software because we'd be screwed if that came to pass. Gaming would be done. There's so much.
And if the evil corporations want to give us money, we'd be stupid not to take it.
Right. Yes, indeed. Especially seeing how we as a community aren't willing to, or even able to, put that kind of money forth to do the development work ourselves. I mean, we've seen time and time again pure open source projects put out pleas for money and then just not get enough to be able to go forth because they can't go through and get enough money to pay their bills and feed their families. They have to go get a job. That's the reason why most open source projects are done as side projects.
And there are some open source projects that can't be side projects, like Firefox. Look, let's be real. As dumb as Mozilla can be, if it wasn't for Google, we wouldn't have the best open source browser we have.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Mozilla is a completely different argument for me because I think that they could do what they do with a lot less money, mostly because they, pay their CEO way too much. But you're entirely right that they would need money from someplace, and it's painfully obvious that it's not going to come from their community.
Yeah. Mozilla is a weird beast because I completely agree with you. I think right now they could afford to not be getting that money, but Firefox would not be competitive and where it is now and in the position to not need that money without Google's help to get there, or Google's money to get there.
Yeah.
That's more accurate. We have gone on a huge tangent here.
Like, we started here, and then we ended up all the way over here. I don't even know how we got there. That was the weirdest tangent ever. It was great.
Yes,
we were talking about most underrated Linux distros. So one last thing on this is that we could have come up with any number of answers for this because there are thousands of Linux distributions out there. It's just, I came up with, I found another one the other day today that I'm going to make a video on called Voyager Linux. It's based on Ubuntu 21.10. It looks like GNOME to me, but I don't know actually much about it, but I'm going to do another WTF video on it. But I was like,
it's GNOME. You'll love it.
I'm sure it's going to be fan. But the thing is, that's just another example. Like, there's so many Linux distributions out there, and you can make the argument whether or not that is good or bad for Linux. Like, too much choice is maybe a bad thing, or maybe too much choice is a good thing, one way or another. But I think just coming to the close that it's kind of awesome. I think it's really cool. I mean, without so many distros, I wouldn't have a channel because if all we had was Ubuntu or Fedora, I mean, it'd be
so boring.
It'd be kind of boring, man. Tyler has made streams looking at weird Linux distros, and what was that, Ubuntu CE or whatever, and
there's Christian edition, there's apartheid Linux for literally, if you're a neo-Nazi, there's a Linux distro for you. If there's political distributions, there's state distributions, like government distribution. There is a Linux distribution for any type of person. You can be the weirdest person out there and in the smallest minority, and there's a Linux distro for you. That's why I crack up at people who tell you or tell others that I can't use Linux because it doesn't work for me. You mean to tell me that out of the thousands of distros out there, not one works for you? Come on now. Come on. You just haven't found it yet.
Okay. In the comments, Kelsey has called me out for calling it GNOME. Okay, so let me explain. Let's get real here for a second. It is pronounced GNOME for a reason, because GNOME is an acronym. Okay, and I'm going to open up Wikipedia here, because we all know that Wikipedia is the best place. and we're gonna search for GNOME, and we're just gonna go. Of course, GNOME actually, takes you to gnomes. Like, it stands for the GNU Network Object Model Environment. Now, it's no longer actually stands for that, but when it first started, that's what it was called, and that's what it stood for. That's why it's called GNOME, just like GNU is pronounced GNU. Okay, so that's why we pronounce it GNOME. Now, if you do pronounce it with a silent G, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with it. You're not doing anything wrong. But don't call out other people for saying GNOME, because we are actually pronouncing it the way it used to be pronounced. Okay, now that I've schooled the chat, I'm just going to put that out there, because I keep getting... I got that in that video I did where I used GNOME for a week, I got like 5 comments saying, you're saying it wrong. Like, no, I'm not. No, I'm not. Just like, no, I'm not. Okay. There are many things that I say. Like, I butcher people's names all the time. Like, I have a new YouTube member. His or her name. I'm gonna slaughter it. It's gonna be the next time I have to say it. In fact, it'll probably be at the end of this video. It's going to be embarrassing for both me and the new member. But but GNOME, I know how to pronounce that. Now, somebody also said that I was saying OpenSUSE wrong. Is it OpenSUSE or OpenSUSE? Because somebody said it was
OpenSUSE.
That's what I thought. That's the way I've always said it. But apparently, OpenSUSE is the way they're supposed to pronounce it. I don't know. I thought it was OpenSUSE.
Same.
So, some of the pronunciations of things are weird. So, like, if you use Ubuntu Mate, it's Mate. It's that's the way they.
Dude, I love it when people call it mate. What is this mate? It's like
to this day, every once in a while, Joe Collins will pronounce it mate, but he knows it's Mate. Like, and he always talks about his audience, because apparently his audience gets pissed off over how he pronounces it every once in a while too. So, it is mate. It's named after a South American drink or something. I don't. It's weird. But people,
no, it's named after yerba mate. I used to drink it. It's a fantastic alternative to coffee. Way off topic there, but there you go. That's what it's named after.
You say so, bro. Anyways, okay, so we went from here to over here, and now we're back there somewhere. Okay, so anything left to say on most underrated distro before we that was where we started. Okay, so every week Tyler and I scour the interwebs for apps, picks, things that we can share with you that we think are awesome. So we call them apps of the week. Sometimes they're picks of the week. Sometimes they're tips of the week. So Tyler, what is your thing of the week?
Mine is LSD. I believe we've talked about it. I don't know if we have talked about it in a previous episode of the podcast, maybe. But I know I've talked about it on my channel. I use it a lot. It's amazing. So again, if you're someone who uses the terminal a lot, which, like, let's be honest, if you're watching this, most likely you do. LS Deluxe or LSD it's just your regular LS command, but it cleans it up. It makes it look much cleaner. It adds color to it, as well as gives things icons. It just makes using and managing files and just in general your actual computer inside of your terminal, it just makes it look much nicer. And if we're being honest, a lot of us like to neglect aesthetics when it comes to our computers, or indulge. If you're someone who neglects the aesthetic of your computer, look, it's super simple to install. If it's not in your distro's repository, you can easily install it with pip. It's really not that hard. And make your terminal life awesome, okay? Use LSD.
What's the difference between this and EXA?
I honestly can't answer that because I've never used EXA.
Okay, so I'm going to try to share my screen here. This is probably going to break something. But if I go into a terminal, and you're not going to be able to see this, Tyler, but everybody else will be on the stream. If I do an ls here, which I have alias to exa, so I'm interested to find out. I'm going to have to try that because I'd love to know what the difference is between those two. Because exa basically does everything you're talking about, but with more, I don't know. It looks even nicer, at least from the screenshot that I saw. Anyways, so that's cool.
Actually, LSD looks very similar because I do have the stream loaded up so I can see it. It looks very similar to that.
Now, does it?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I mean, they're probably exactly the same. Of course, one of them's probably written in Rust because, of course. I mean,
Yep.
anyways, so that's awesome. So my pick of the week is the most self-serving, selfish piece of thing I've ever done. So this is a script that I wrote called ArchSinner. Now, I'm a horrible namer of scripts. I can't help it. But basically what this script will do, and I did a video on this, but this script, if you run this script via key binding or in the terminal or whatever, will bring up Brophy and allow you to change your Alacrity theme between 4 or 5 different themes. Like, actually 8 different themes. And it's really cool. So
That's awesome.
I've been using this now for a couple days, and I've switched back and forth between the Monokai Pro rice I did yesterday to Grovebox to back to Dracula, and it's just a matter of a key binding, and it'll change my Alacrity theme to those things, and it's really good. Now, you do have, in order for this to work, you have to have my Alacrity config in order to get it to work, because you have to have Alacrity config set up in a certain way in order to do it. But yeah, that is ArchSinner. I'm horrible at naming things. Like, it's just really bad. But it's a really cool script. I do need to go through and see if I can go through and make that horrendous if statement a little bit, better, because right now it's just if elif, over and over again. But it works. I've never proclaimed to be the best bash scripter in the world. Everybody knows that I'm a complete noob when it comes to this, but it does work. So that is my pick of the week. So I think that is it for us, and it is almost 5 o'clock in the fucking afternoon. So we're not gonna do a dedicated question and answer session this time. Normally we try to fit that in, but we won't do that this time. So if you have questions, you can leave them in the comments of the video when it goes up tomorrow. Now, the way this works, if you are for whatever reason you're just tuning in and you want to go back and watch this, don't leave this page. Just go ahead and scrub all the way back to the beginning and watch it. Once you navigate away, the video will go away because it's going to go unlisted after this, because I'm very picky when it comes to views and I want them all in one place. My OCD just acts right up if they're split. Like last week, we got the same amount of views that we always did, but we only got 500 on the edited version and 300 on the other, and it's the same amount as always, but they were split and it drove me crazy, and I was the whole week. Yeah, so that is definitely so this video will go unlisted once we stop recording, but if you need to keep watching it, just stay on the page, don't reload. That's the way that works. And usually I try to remember to actually link to this recording in the edited version, that way if you want to watch the chat, because there was a lot of chat this time. We had a peak of 50 people watching at the same time.
Holy crap, wow.
Like, we appreciate everybody who comes watching. We record this live every Thursday around 3 p.m. Eastern time if somebody's not off playing 0AD when they should be doing other things. I'm not going to name names, Tyler. So if you want to watch live Thursday, 3 o'clock Eastern time, that's 2 p.m. Central time. Do the math for the rest of the time zones. I'm much too lazy to do that. Before I go, I'd like to take a moment to thank my current patrons: Devon, Chris, EastCoastWeb, Gentoo, Fun2, Patrick, L, Marcus, Maeglin, Jackson, Knife Tool, Steve A, Mitchel, ArchSinner, the new guy, Amadeus Banerjee. Amadeus Banerjee, I apologize for butchering your name. Thanks for being a YouTube member. welcome to the madness. I will again, sorry about butchering your name. Marek, Camp Joshua Lee, JDawg, and the BSC's Rock. JDawg, that is not his real name either. I can't pronounce his name, so we just agreed that he is going to be JDawg from now until the end of eternity. So thanks everyone for being a patron. If you would like to become a patron, you can support us on Patreon at patreon.com/LinuxCast. You can follow me on Twitter at the LinuxCast. You can join my Discord server, which the link will be in the video description below. You can join Tyler's Discord server, which the link will be in the video description below or the show notes if you want to go do that. His server is more active than mine, but that is not the case the last few days. Mine has been very active. We went from like 70 to almost 100 members of the Discord. So that is it for us this week. Coming up next week, holy hell, we're doing the 5 app challenge. Now, I don't know if you know this, but I don't think I actually discussed this with you. This is something that I just came up with, and technically it's your turn to choose a topic, but we'll do this and then you can go through and put in some topics when you're not playing 080.
Yeah, like a complete addict.
You need help, man. You need help. You need to find a group or something, and you need to not use it's a good thing 080 is not on your phone because you'd be doing it at work. Anyways, all right, so the 5 app challenge, this is where it's going to work. We're going to find 5 apps, okay? They don't have to be open source or anything. They have to work on Linux. That's the only rule for that. But they have to be things that you've never used before or just barely used, and share them. For every app that you found that the other person has never heard of or used before, you get a point. The person who has the most points at the end wins.
Okay.
So you're going to need to do a little prep work for this, and I will have to do a little prep work for this as well. So find some apps. Don't put them in the show notes. Leave them, obviously, on a piece of paper somewhere so that we can't cheat.
Yep.
Because we both know that we're both cheating cheaters who cheat. That's just true. Yeah, that should be really fun. And also, just a note, we are still planning on our next big challenge to be the Rice Wars, where we will both take a window manager and we will rice them side by side, timed. The person who gets done fastest wins. But we haven't figured out how we're going to record it yet. So I'd love to figure out how to do this live, but I don't know how we would go about doing it yet. So that's something we're going to have to talk about, Tyler, to see if between the two of us we can kind of brainstorm how we'd go about doing that. I mean, we could use something like a screen sharing, like a screen or like one of those things where you like SSH into someone else's computer, and so you could like rice my computer. But I don't know how. I don't know. We won't be able to do it side by side. Maybe what we do is just do it simply like I rice mine and time it, and then you rice yours and time it, and then whoever wins that way instead of doing it side by side. I don't know. We'll have to talk about it. Anyways, for that is it for us this week. Thanks everybody for watching. We'll see you next time. Okay. Stop. Save. What? Oh, that's the reason why. Because my fucking keyboard stopped working again. Piece of trash. All right. Okay. The Linux has. This is season 5, episode 32. So 5x32, and this is underrated distros. All right, everybody in the chat, we appreciate you guys for being here. We really do appreciate that. I cannot believe the number of people who are watching this episode as we're going. Yes, we're still live. We just stopped recording. Okay. Yep, we are still live.
And this is episode 31?
I think it's 32, I think is what I just said.
Okay.
Yep, 32. So technically awesome. The next one will be 33 if, we know how to count. Again, keyboard stopped working again. This is getting fucking annoying. I need it. Why? It's still not doing anything. Well,
just so you guys know, I am going to go outside and weed eat for a little bit. But before I do that, I'm going to schedule another live stream, and so we'll be playing games. Possibly 0 AD, maybe not. Possibly.
The one thing I will say about this is the lag in your last 0 AD thing was so fucking annoying.
Dude, it was so bad. I don't know why it was doing that.
Like, is that the game, or is that because of the internet, or is it just...
I think it's the game. If I'm being completely honest, I think I'm pretty sure I haven't changed any of the settings, so it may have defaulted all of the settings to like maxed. Because I ran it off of the dedicated card, and this dedicated card can play like Doom at like super, like at like ultra settings at like 120 FPS. So it's like a very powerful card. But the problem with that is 0 AD, even though it can run the graphics super high, when you're playing with like a max pop of like 300 people and like you have a ton of buildings and you're playing with like multiple other people, they have shitloads of buildings, tons of AI, tons of like people going around the map. Your CPU, like my poor laptop CPU, just can't keep up.
All right, Tushant, I'm probably butchering your name as well. We stream every Thursday around 3 o'clock Eastern time. I say around because even when we're both running on time, we still bullshit before we hit the stream button. So when Tyler and I are in the same room, we bullshit forever. We could literally talk for days on end and never get bored.
Yeah.
So we try to start around that time. There's a reason why I don't schedule these things, because we're never on time. So but every Thursday around this time where we stream. So
and I'll be the one to go ahead and say it. I'm the one who normally causes it to not be on time.
That's okay. It's all right, man. Don't feel too guilty. Well, feel a little guilty, but not too guilty.
A little bit.
Anyways, I'm gonna go ahead and end this stream. Thanks again for everybody for watching. We really do appreciate it. We'll see you guys next